The transport ship moved through dark space like a wounded animal, slow and heavy, surrounded by escort vessels from 6 different alien species. Inside it, alarms hummed softly, and armed guards stood at every sealed door. The entire coalition had agreed on one thing: the human prisoner was too dangerous to underestimate. They had expected a beast. That was what the stories said. Humans were supposed to be violent creatures from a harsh world, driven by instinct, rage, and endless hunger for conquest. Some reports claimed humans fought even when hopeless. Others said they smiled while doing it. No one agreed on the details, but everyone agreed on the fear. So when the containment chamber finally opened, the guards were ready for claws, teeth, or madness. Instead, they saw a woman. She sat on the floor with her back against the wall, wrists bound with energy restraints. Her dark hair was messy, her face pale from injury and exhaustion. One eye was bruised, and dried blood marked her temple. She looked small inside the reinforced chamber. Wrapped in a thin prisoner's suit, the guards hesitated. "This is it?" one of them muttered in his clicking language. Another leaned closer to the barrier, scanning her with sensors. "She is human." Verified. Captain Arya Vale. Military designation confirmed. Arya Vale did not move. Her breathing was slow and steady. Her eyes were open, watching them, calm and alert. That was when the first guard felt uneasy. He could not explain why. She was restrained, injured, outnumbered. And yet, something about the way she looked at them made his skin tighten under his armor. Not hatred, not fear, assessment. The guard stepped back as the chamber sealed again. Orders echoed through the ship. The prisoner would be held until the council arrived. She was to be questioned, studied, and eventually used as proof that humanity was not the nightmare it claimed to be. Inside the chamber, Arya finally closed her eyes. She listened. The ship's engines had a slight irregular rhythm. Older model. Modified. Military. But not top tier. The air vents whispered too loudly, meaning internal pressure regulation was stressed. The energy restraints pulsed every 6 seconds. Predictable. She cataloged everything. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time blurred in space. When the door opened again, 3 figures entered. Tall, plated, and sharp-edged, they represented different worlds. One was insect-like, with glowing eyes and folded limbs. Another moved on 4 legs, its translator mounted to its chest. The third was humanoid but pale and hairless, with dark veins visible beneath translucent skin. They formed a half-circle around her. "So," the pale one said, its voice filtered and smooth. "This is humanity." Arya slowly raised her head. She said nothing. The insectoid leaned forward. "The reports were wrong. She is broken." The 4-legged one snorted. "Fragile." This species caused panic across sectors. Arya's gaze moved from one face to the next. She memorized posture, tone, distance. When her eyes met the pale one's, he stiffened slightly before catching himself. "Speak," he ordered. "Tell us your nature." Arya swallowed. Her voice, when it came, was quiet but clear. "My name is Captain Arya Vale. I request medical attention." The insectoid laughed, a dry clicking sound, already making demands. The pale one raised a hand. "Denied. You are here to answer questions." Arya nodded once. "Then ask." They exchanged glances. This was not the reaction they expected. "You are a soldier," the 4-legged one said. "Why did you not fight harder when captured?" Note. Arya tilted her head slightly. "I did fight. You surrendered. I survived." Silence followed. The pale one leaned closer. "Your species is known for violence. Rage. You do not display it." Arya's lips curved faintly. Not a smile. Something colder. "Rage is loud. It makes mistakes." The insectoid shifted. "Then what are you?" Arya looked down at her restraints. "Human." The session ended shortly after. No threats, no shouting, just answers that gave nothing away. As they left, one guard lingered near the chamber. He was young, his armor freshly marked with rank symbols. He glanced at Arya. curiosity overcoming fear. "You don't look like a monster," he said quietly through the barrier. Arya met his eyes. For the first time, something burned there. "Not anger, fire." "Neither do you," she replied. The guard stepped back, unsettled, and sealed the door. Later, alone again, Arya allowed herself one deep breath. Pain throbbed through her ribs. Her body was tired, but her mind was sharp. They believed she was the prize. They were wrong. Far away, beyond the Coalition's patrol lines, human space was silent. No fleets moved. No signals flared. To the galaxy, it looked like humanity was hiding. In truth, they were watching. Every human ship carried the same message, passed quietly from commander to commander. "She is in position." Back on the transport, systems flickered for less than a second. No alarms sounded. No one noticed. Except Arya. She closed her eyes and allowed herself a real smile this time. The hunt had begun. The lights in the transport ship never fully dimmed. They stayed at a soft gray, meant to confuse the sense of time. Arya Vale noticed it immediately. She marked each cycle, each slight change in hum and vibration. Her body rested, but her mind never did. Guards came more often now. Sometimes they only watched her through the barrier. Sometimes they brought scanners and machines that floated around her, humming and clicking as they collected data. They spoke in low voices, confident she could not understand them. They were wrong. Humans had spent a long time learning how to listen. They talked about her strength, her bones, her muscles. They compared her to other species. Always weaker. Always slower. Always smaller. Arya let them believe it. During one session, the pale leader returned alone. He dismissed the guards and stood just outside the energy field. "You are not what we expected," he said. Arya remained seated. "Neither are you." He ignored that. "You show no fear. No aggression. No desperation." "Why?" Arya looked at the floor for a moment, then back at him. "Because panic helps the captor, not the captive." His eyes narrowed. "You think yourself clever." "I think," she replied, "that you have already decided what I am." He leaned closer. "And what is that?" "A symbol," Arya said. "Not a person." Something shifted in his expression. He straightened and ended the session without another word. After that, the tone changed. They stopped trying to threaten her. Instead, they tried to confuse her. They changed schedules. They altered gravity for short periods. They played sounds meant to cause stress. Arya endured it all silently. When the gravity dropped suddenly, she braced her body before it happened. When the noise rose, she slowed her breathing. The guards began to talk among themselves. "She is adapting," one said. "She should be braking," another replied. "She watches too much." They increased surveillance. That was exactly what Arya wanted. Each new camera gave her another angle. Each new system gave her another pattern to learn. She memorized the guard rotations, the response times, the way certain species reacted under pressure. She noticed that one section of the ship always lost power for a fraction of a second when the engines adjusted course. Small things, important things. One cycle, a different interrogator arrived. This one was smaller, with smooth skin and large eyes. Its voice was gentle. "We want to understand you," it said. Arya studied it carefully. "Understanding requires listening." The creature hesitated. "Then speak." She did. Not about tactics or secrets. She talked about Earth, about storms and oceans, about how humans learned to live on a world that tried to kill them every day. "We did not survive because we were strongest," Arya said. "We survived because we learned." The interrogator seemed genuinely interested. It asked questions. It listened. It left confused, but thoughtful. That was another crack. Elsewhere on the ship, systems continued to behave strangely. Doors delayed by half a second. Displays flickered. Internal messages rerouted. Engineers blamed aging hardware. Command blamed stress. No one blamed the quiet human woman. In her chamber, Arya waited for the right moment. She tested the restraints subtly, timing her movements with power fluctuations. She felt the pulse weaken just enough during engine adjustments. Not enough to escape. Enough to know it was possible. She remembered her training. Humans did not charge blindly. They waited. They endured. They turned pressure into opportunity. Another interrogation came. This time, the pale leader returned with others. They stood taller, more confident. "We have decided," he said, "that your species is dangerous because it believes itself special." Arya lifted her head. "We believe ourselves responsible. For what? For what happens next?" The insectoid laughed. "You think you're self-important." Arya's eyes met his. "I think you brought the wrong human." The words lingered in the air longer than expected. Later, alone again, Arya allowed herself to feel the weight of exhaustion. Her injuries still ached. Her body needed rest. But her purpose kept her awake. She remembered the message she sent before capture. Short, simple, proceed. Somewhere far away, human ships adjusted their courses. On the transport, a young guard stopped outside her chamber again. He hesitated before speaking. "Why do you look at us like that?" he asked. Arya turned toward him. "Like what?" "Like you are already free." She considered the question. "Because freedom starts here," she said, tapping her head lightly. He frowned. "You will not escape." Arya smiled softly. "That depends on what you think escape means." The guard left quickly, unsettled. Not long after, alarms finally sounded. Not loud ones. Internal alerts, meant only for officers. A navigation error. Minor. Corrected within seconds, but it left a trace. Arya felt the restraints weaken for just a moment longer than before. Long enough for her to slip one finger free before the field snapped back. She did not move again. She closed her eyes and breathed. They still thought they were in control. That was their final mistake. The decision came quietly. In a sealed chamber deep within the transport ship, the coalition leaders gathered. They spoke in careful tones, aware that fear had begun to spread among the crew. Systems were still malfunctioning, crew morale was unstable, and the human prisoner remained calm. Too calm. "She is becoming a problem," said the insectoid commander. The crew whispers about her. "She has done nothing," replied the smooth-skinned diplomat. "That is the problem," the pale leader said. "Fear grows in silence." They agreed on a solution. The human would be made an example. Her execution would be broadcast across coalition space. Not as punishment alone, but as a message. Humans were not legends. They were weak, mortal. The order was sent. When the guards arrived at Arya Vale's chamber, they carried heavier weapons and avoided her eyes. The restraints were reinforced. Gravity increased slightly to make movement harder. Arya noticed everything. They escorted her through the ship's corridors for the first time. Crew members stopped and stared. Some looked curious. Some looked relieved. Others looked afraid, though they did not understand why. Arya walked slowly, injured but steady. She did not resist. They placed her on a raised platform in a vast chamber filled with lights and recording drones. The broadcast had already begun. Across dozens of star systems, beings gathered to watch the end of a human. The pale leader stepped forward. "Today," he announced, "the galaxy will see the truth." Arya looked up at the lights. She felt the restraints humming around her body, stronger than before, designed to hold even the strongest creatures. She closed her eyes. Far away, in the dark between stars, something moved. Human fleets did not rush. They did not shout. They waited at the edge of detection. Engines cold. Weapons silent. Each ship held position with perfect discipline. They had trained for this. On the platform, the pale leader continued. "Humanity has spread fear through exaggeration and myth. Today, we end that." He turned to Arya. "Do you have final words?" She opened her eyes. "Yes," she said. The chamber quieted. Even the guards leaned closer. Arya lifted her head and looked directly into the main recording drone. "You thought humans were dangerous because we are violent," she said calmly. "That was your first mistake." Murmurs spread. "You thought we were unpredictable," she continued. That was your second. The pale leader frowned. This is enough. You thought capturing one of us would scare the rest, Arya said. That was your final mistake. The pale leader raised his hand sharply. End this. The execution device powered up. At that exact moment, every screen in the chamber flickered. Once. Then, the galaxy changed. Human symbols appeared across the broadcast feeds. Calm. Clear. Unmistakable. Navigation alarms screamed throughout the transport. Sensors flared as space itself seemed to tear open. Human ships emerged from jump points that should not have existed. Hundreds of them. No formation chaos. No confusion. They arrived like a wall. The chamber erupted into panic. Officers shouted. Guards raised weapons that suddenly felt very small. Arya smiled. You see, she said softly, her voice still carried by the broadcast. Humans don't win by being stronger. The restraints around her arms went dead. She stepped forward as systems failed around her. We win by planning, she said. By patience. By letting you believe the story you want to hear. The pale leader backed away. This is impossible. Arya turned to him. You broadcast this, remember? On the screen behind her, a human admiral appeared. His voice was steady. This is a formal declaration, he said. Release our people. Stand down your weapons. This conflict ends now. Outside, human ships did not fire. They waited. That terrified the coalition more than any attack. Some ships tried to flee. Their jump drives failed. Human technology wrapped space itself, locking them in place. Inside the chamber, guards lowered their weapons one by one. Arya walked past them. Free now. No one stopped her. She approached the pale leader until they were face to face. You expected a beast, she said quietly. You got a human. He looked at her eyes, and finally understood the fire he had sensed from the beginning. Not rage. Resolve. The battle never became a slaughter. Human ships disabled. Not destroyed. Command systems shut down. Power grids collapsed cleanly. Precision replaced chaos. Within minutes, the coalition surrendered. Across the galaxy, billions watched the broadcast continue. They saw a human woman standing unchained, while entire fleets stood powerless. The myth shattered. Later, as emergency lights dimmed and order returned, Arya stood alone near a viewport. Human ships filled the stars beyond. The Admiral's voice came through her communicator. Captain Vale. Mission accomplished. She exhaled slowly. They never understood, she replied. Understood what? He asked. That humans don't need to roar, Arya said. We just need to stand up. And the galaxy would never forget the moment they did. The silence after surrender felt heavier than the battle that never came. Inside the transport ship, emergency lights slowly returned to normal. Weapons powered down. Doors unlocked. Coalition officers stood still, unsure what to do next. They had trained for war, for chaos, for destruction. They had not trained for calm defeat. Arya Vale walked through the corridors without restraints now. Human Marines moved with quiet efficiency, securing systems and helping injured crew members from all species. No one was harmed unless they resisted, and very few did. That confused the coalition more than anything. Arya paused near a medical bay where human medics treated alien crew without hesitation. A four-legged officer watched in disbelief as a human carefully wrapped his injured limb. They are helping us, he whispered. They always do, Arya replied, passing by. In the command chamber, the coalition leaders waited. They no longer stood tall. Their authority had cracked the moment human ships appeared and did not fire. The pale leader stepped forward as Arya entered. You have won, he said. What comes now? Arya looked around the room. Screens showed human fleets holding position. Calm. And controlled. No threat displays. No aggressive signals. What comes now? She said. Depends on what you choose to learn. The insectoid commander clicked sharply. You humiliated us. Arya shook her head. You humiliated yourselves by believing fear was strength. The smooth-skinned diplomat spoke quietly. You could destroy us. Yes, Arya said honestly. But that was never the goal. Silence followed. We do not want your worlds, she continued. We do not want your people. Humanity wants one thing. And what is that? The pale leader asked. Recognition, Arya replied. That we exist. That we are not myths or monsters. That we are not tools to be used or fears to be crushed. The leaders exchanged glances. You ask us to trust you, the insectoid said. Arya met his gaze. We already trusted you once. You captured me instead. The words landed hard. Hours later, terms were signed. Not forced. Offered. Coalition fleets would withdraw from human space. Human systems would be recognized as sovereign. Trade would open slowly. Carefully. Any future contact would be equal. The galaxy shifted on quiet words, not explosions. When it was done, Arya left the chamber alone. She stood before a wide viewport, watching human ships begin to move again. The stars felt different now. Not safer. Clearer. The Admiral appeared beside her on the screen. You did well, he said. We all did, Arya replied. This only worked because we didn't rush. He nodded. The galaxy was ready to see us differently. They just didn't know it. Arya remained silent, her eyes fixed on the stars. Later, as human forces prepared to leave, something unexpected happened. A young alien guard approached her. The same one who had spoken to her before. His posture was nervous, but determined. I wanted to thank you, he said. For what? Arya asked. For not being what they told us you were. Arya studied him for a moment. And what did they tell you? That humans were beasts, he said. That you would destroy us if given the chance. She smiled gently. We destroy only what refuses to change. He nodded slowly, understanding just enough. Across coalition space, the broadcast replayed again and again. Not the moment of surrender, but the moment before. The human woman standing calmly, eyes burning with quiet fire, speaking without shouting. Children of many species watched it. They asked questions their elders struggled to answer. Why didn't she hate them? Why didn't they attack? Why did the humans stop when they could have ended everything? The answers spread slowly, but they spread. Because humanity had learned something early in its history. Winning was not the same as conquering. On Earth, the sky was calm when Arya finally returned. Cities moved as they always had. People lived their lives, unaware of how close the galaxy had come to misunderstanding them forever. She walked along a quiet overlook, feeling gravity she had missed. Feeling home. The Admiral stood beside her in person this time. You're going to be a symbol now, he said. You know that. Arya exhaled. I never wanted to be. None of us do, he replied. But symbols matter, she nodded. Somewhere far beyond Earth. Coalition leaders rewrote their doctrines. Fear-based strategies were questioned. Assumptions were challenged. For the first time, humanity was studied not as a threat, but as a teacher. Years later, long after Arya Vale retired from service, an alien historian would record the event with careful words. They would write that humanity did not arrive roaring into the galaxy. They arrived standing still, and the galaxy moved around them. The story would end not with fire or death, but with a simple truth passed from world to world. They expected a beast. They got a woman with fire in her eyes, and through her, they learned what it truly meant to be human.